Hello and welcome to Vancouver Carpenter. If you're new to drywall, picking the right mud can be kind of a daunting task with so many different types. We've got light mud, we've got all-purpose, we've got heavyweight, we've got topping, we've got joint. So it's hard to know exactly which mud to choose. So I'm going to help break that down for you so you can know which one to pick. We're also going to do this in the order that we tape with. So first we're going to start with quickset muds. So these are the powdered muds that are bought in bag form. So one of the ones we use a lot here in Western Canada, and this isn't available everywhere, but it's called concrete fill. So the specific purpose of this mud right here is actually for skimming out concrete ceilings. So it's got really good adhesion and it's got some light aggregate in it, which I believe is something like perlite. So it's squishy, not like sand. So that's for skimming out ceilings. It has really great floatability, but you're not going to find it everywhere. Hamilton Ultra Fill is another product. It's the same product basically, just in a different bag from a different company. So we use this for floating big areas, filling large voids. I also use it for jobs where I'm taping with mesh tape. It's a quick setting compound that has about an hour to set. So next, let's get into another quick set. So this one is just your standard 20-minute mud. This is a CertainTeed product, Light Sand Plus. It says light sand because it's supposed to be sandable, but it's not very sandable. So this is another product that is suitable for taping with mesh tape on patches and jobs that you're just not worried about cracking. So this stuff is very hard, it doesn't shrink, and I mostly just use it for pre-fill or jobs where I'm trying to get in and out in a day. It sets in about 20 to 30 minutes, so you can apply subsequent coats. Now, something that most people don't understand about setting muds, they are quick set, not quick dry. If you apply 3 coats in one day, you still need to wait 3 or 4 days for that to dry properly. All it does is allow you to apply a bunch of coats in one day so you don't have to do multiple trips. And it also allows you to do deep fills, like you could fill things up to easily 1/2 inch deep, if not deeper, without it shrinking and cracking. So it doesn't do all the weird things that regular mud will do. So once you've done your pre-filling, the next thing to go on to is some sort of a taping mud. So here in Canada, we have what's called light taping mud. So this one says lightweight taping. And this box here is also taping mud. So in Canada, all of our mud is light. So what that means is in the States, there's actually heavyweight mud, and we'll get into that a little bit when I get into all-purpose. So this mud is specifically for laying paper tape. It doesn't coat nicely, it gets bubbles, and it shrinks a lot, and it's harder to sand. So it's specifically for laying tape. It has tons of glue in it, and because it's light, it's not too heavy if you're using, say, automatic taping tools or just carrying around a pan of mud. It's not too heavy. So next we're going to get into all-purpose muds. So right here I have light all-purpose. So it's important to make a distinction. I've been saying light a lot, and that's because pretty much all muds up here in Canada are light. And what that means is I'm not sure when they stopped using the regular heavyweight formula and switched over to light. It was maybe in the 80s or 90s. But a heavyweight mud, like your regular sheetrock green lid USG or your Proform black lid, these muds that you guys have down in the States, that is a regular heavyweight mud, is literally twice the weight. You lift up a bucket of that. If you're a Canadian and you go to pick up a bucket of heavyweight and you've been lifting lightweight buckets your whole life, you're gonna, oh my goodness, because this stuff is just heavy. It's a totally different beast. And a lot of the time, I've been on drywall forums where Canadian tapers are giving the Americans a really hard time. What are you taping with all-purpose for? The thing is, us Canadians don't know that in the States, there's a lot of places that don't have taping mud and they don't have light mud. They only have this all-purpose stuff. It's a real bear to work with. It sands horribly, so it's a totally different animal than the light muds we have up here in Canada. Very sticky and very strong. So let's get into the Canadian lightweight all-purpose. So you can tape with it, but it is not as good as a regular mud. So I'd say a light all-purpose mud for taping is good enough to give the customer a tailgate warranty. And what that means is when you can't see the tailgate of the contractor anymore, your warranty's expired. So I carry this stuff around because it's all right for taping things like inside corners, and it's good for taping things in a pinch, and it also has better adhesion over, say, glossy paints and things like that than your classic finish. All-purpose mud is also one of the only things you should be coating steel beads with. Although the real question is, why are you still installing steel beads? So next, let's get into finish muds. So right here we've got a classic finish, which just means it's a topping mud. So this mud is not suitable for taping, it is not suitable for coating steel or vinyl beads, but what it is suitable for is getting nice smooth coats with relatively few bubbles on your first coat. And it polishes out really nicely on your final coat. It's also easier to sand. So in terms of hardness of sanding, taping, and the heavyweight all-purpose, you don't want to sand that stuff. Light all-purpose is pretty darn easy to sand. A comparable product in the States would be USG +3. That's a light all-purpose. But this stuff is very easy to sand. If you use a coarse grit of sandpaper like a 120 or sometimes even a 150 on a finish mud, you're going to scratch the crap out of it. So it's very easy to sand, but that also means that you need to be more careful with it when sanding and that it's not going to leave as durable a finish on the customer's wall. Although in all honesty, we're talking about drywall, not plaster or concrete. No matter what drywall you're using, it's going to leave a cheap finish on the wall because drywall is a cheap product, but that's a whole other debate. So the ideal scenario for using something like an all-purpose is when you're doing a really small job, like a bunch of patches or a small bathroom. So you're going to use mesh tape and quickset on your flats and your butt joints, and you're going to use paper tape and all-purpose for your inside corners. I would probably also install my corner beads with quickset, and you're going to get a first coat on everything and a coat on your inside corners with the all-purpose, and then you're going to do a finish coat with the all-purpose. So it's handy to have if you don't want to carry two different buckets around. You just want one bucket for one job. So for large jobs, what I like to have is I like to have a bag of confill for the deep fills and for pre-filling everything. I like to have taping mud and paper tape because it's the strongest and longest lasting. And then I like to have finish mud because it spreads the nicest and because I get the least pinholes and it sands easily. So this is for big jobs, and then the quickset and the all-purpose for the little jobs. So I hope that helps answer some of your questions if you've been wondering about what are all these different types of drywall muds and maybe you get a little overwhelmed when you're at the Home Depot. So thanks for watching. See you in the next video.